And vote on them. Talk about the ECAT contract.
Yep.
Oh, wow, it's a party in here. Look at this. Who knew?
Hey.
I have to be in Richmond tomorrow,
Hi.
so I'm leaving.
I don't know about. All right, so we can table the minutes until Jackie gets here. Do we have a payroll warrant over there?
Yes, we do. It has them right there.
Okay. Now, the first one is a payroll warrant. PD 14-39A in the amount of $134,451.41. Do we have a motion?
Hi, can I sign it?
Can Liz sign? Heather?
Everybody can sign. Is that, wait, is that the first one?
Yeah, it's the first one.
17,721.
No, it's 134.
Oh, I don't have them there. Then Jackie cannot sign.
So we're on this one here though. Is that it? No. So
Whatever the school one is, I can't sign that one.
Heather, do you know this is the 134,000 one? Can everyone sign this?
So the school warrant one is the one for $148,779.57. It is payroll warrant 1441-1. So
Right.
that one, everyone but Liz can sign.
Well, hang on for a second, Cato. So we already sort of talked about PD 1439A. So where does that leave us? Who can sign that?
Yes.
This one here. This one. Okay. What's the date on it?
Oh, that's, you know what? It's a payroll deduction warrant. I don't like them.
134,000?
That's fine where that guy is.
All right.
Ah, okay.
Hey, Jackie,
Payroll deduction.
can you take a
Looks
look
like
at
it's
the-
just teachers' dues, so that one everyone should be able to sign.
Oh, okay.
Everyone can sign that one?
Yeah, it's just teachers' dues.
Okay.
The PD is payroll deduction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I already did. So I'm just, so moved?
So moved.
Second.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
PD 1441. Heather, everyone can sign this one? $74,182.18.
Let me just pull it up on my iPad here.
Thank you. I'm just going through the way they are in this.
Yeah, the PE warrants are gonna be for, federal tax withholdings.
Okay.
And that kind of stuff, retirement and everything, so it shouldn't matter.
Shouldn't matter who signs.
You know.
Okay.
I did. Like,
So do I have a motion for PD 1441 for $74,182.18?
so
Make
moved.
that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sign it this way first. There you go, thank you. How about PD 14-41-1, $148,000, $779.57. Do
Approved.
you have a second?
Second.
Is that the school one? Usually the biggest number.
School lunch is right on there.
Okay, I abstain.
So you abstains. So those in favor?
Aye.
You abstain, okay. Okay, PD 1441-2, and then $17,571.90. Winter Road, Dog Control, Water Superintendent, and Water Wages and Transfer Station.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Jackie, you're not gonna be able to do this one. This is PD 1441-3, $342, and it revolves around plumbing inspections. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jackie abstain. Next one is PD 14-41 in the amount of $41,450.03. And this is withholdings, I guess. So I guess everybody
Make a
can vote for
motion to
this.
approve.
Do you have a second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Trade it. Thank you. And the last but not least is PD 14-39 in the amount of $41,031.02. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we're talking about the ECAT.
Yes, but actually, there's a couple folks who are here for the emergency management. They were wondering if it's possible to take that item out of order.
Ready. Where are we on that? On the
I
list?
believe Ed has an update for us since he currently holds the position of emergency management
Hold on.
manager.
Okay. So we're discussing how to appoint the next person to be,
Yes.
is it a chairperson or director?
Yeah, it's the director. What we've had in the past was emergency management director with 2 assistants. Each department had, well, when I was assistant, the fire chief and the police chief were the deputies to fill in if I wasn't here, and also to augment material, manpower, and vehicles to events that might happen. The board asked me if I was going to continue this after my appointment. I said no. So there is going to be a void in May. The board will act on that. There are some paper documents out there that are probably 6 or 7 years old. Those documents are not updated because they don't use paper anymore for the last 7 or 8 years. Everything's on disk form. And once a year, I meet with Bonnie from MEMA and also people from FEMA, and we go over change in equipment to inventories that we have that can be attributed to it, kind of staff, kind of material each department has in an emergency, what can be moved to another community, update the change in personnel to have proper names for chiefs and that when they change, or department heads when they change that are affected. I went to probably 4 or 5 meetings a year that were unrelated to events. Event-related, when I say event-related, like hurricanes, snowstorms, and stuff like that, it requires 2 and 3 meetings with FEMA and MEMA to coordinate cost factors. Number 1 cost factor is the initial investment that the town would put into an event if a so-called declared emergency was established. And then the emergency comes from the governor, but then it's approved by the federal government, namely the president. And then once that's done, after the preliminary, evaluation of costs are done, we do an in-depth cost factor. And that's usually, most of the events like that have been for major storms. And it's pretty straightforward, but we've had several events where we had washouts, we lost roads, we lost a lot of damaged trees, we had roadblocks, we had down wires. That constitutes another set of particulars that you would have to deal with. Short-term recovery and then also long-term recovery. And you'll also deal with mitigation. When I say mitigation, things that have been a constant problem that if we did mitigation, we could probably eliminate those when another event happens, such as change the way drainage comes into a roadway, change the way maybe a building is taking in water, flooding easily. Some of the other things that in mitigation that we've dealt with in the past is move the electrical systems out of the basement onto the 2nd floor. So on prone areas that were subject to flooding, they wouldn't worry about getting electrocuted when people going into buildings. You meet with them probably every 4 or 5 years also to go over a master plan of town-wide changes, such as where are your major forest fires, where are your water supplies, your dams, have they been checked and approved, what kind of conditions they are in, what areas are prone to overflooding and stuff like that. So that's what I have done over the year on an annual basis. And I know there's Don Snyder and the ex-chief of the police department, fire department, and the current chief are here. And I'm assuming you three guys are interested in taking that position? No? Or had questions, be my guess.
Yeah, just interested in supporting the board in whatever action we're looking to take.
Okay. It's a non-paying position, so we'll put that up front.
Yeah. It would be good to get a copy of whatever's current. That would be.
I did give the disc to each police chief and fire chief in years past, but there's disc over my office, and we can burn some more disc. And if I can't burn them because of the way the copyrights are on, I'll ask FEMA to get out some more. Okay?
So Ed, what do you think about, do we post this position? Do we?
Well, I think we should post and find out who's interested in it. I personally, and no offense against Don, I found it that the department head has more flexibility to move manpower, equipment, and supplies in faster than somebody who has to go to these people to get the supplies in there. That's the only benefit I could see, that when I was there, we had the ability to move highway personnel, heavy equipment, police department, and fire department personnel, and work with Board of Health members to move all these things in. And one thing I also did was, I'm a level 400. I think there's one more level above that, and that's in IPS, yeah. But another thing I did, when I know there was an event coming, when I say event, something like a storm, floods, or high winds or hurricane, we would meet if it was something out of the ordinary that we knew we were going to get hit hard. We would meet here, all the departments would meet here, and I would go over any new rules and regulations in regards to how equipment was replaced, if it was damaged, lost, check on manpower that was available, and just do a pre-check of what was going on. We would meet periodically on the radio for the most part, unless there was something that dictated us to come in. In the last major event, we had a lot of streetwide damage. We would meet here, I think, every 2 days until we saw some kind of assistance coming in and improving our situation where we could see recovery. And that was something we worked on and did. And I think we didn't do it perfectly, but I think we did a good job at getting a hold of our resources and moving them. One thing I can say, in any event, whatever it is, you're on your own for 24 to 48 hours, and I think anybody who knows emergency management, that's a given. Then you start getting resources in from MEMA and FEMA, like we did 2 and 3 days down the road. So you got to prioritize what you have to do, protect your water supplies, and make sure that we have the ability to have a shelter. I mean, one thing we do have, we have 3 designated areas for shelters for various sizes in town. We have one small room that's over that used to be the old selectmen's room for under 40 people. Or maybe if we were just going to feed our own personnel, we would set that up and operate that. If we knew we were going to have something that was a more definitive and needed a larger facility, we have the ability to go to the church, which is a designated area, and also the main room in the Council on Aging with the overflow in here. Those are on paper, and those are designated areas. They don't get activated because FEMA and MEMA have done things a little further with Red Cross, and Red Cross will come into designated sites that are designated by MEMA and FEMA, and they like regional sites. Case in point, there was once, we didn't have one per se, but we had places open up where people could charge their batteries, get drinking water and stuff like that. That last major event, we had probably 8 or 10 calls that came in for possibility of going to shelters. There was a major shelter for animals set up in Westfield. There was a shelter set up at a church in Easthampton. The one in Easthampton was not a regional, it was done by Easthampton, so they bared the cost. But, and the one in Northampton was set up for the hill towns in Southampton, Easthampton, and Northampton. And that was set up probably 2 days into the event, okay? And that was run and operated by the American Red Cross. And that's what we did, that's what we coordinated, you know? Okay?
What day do you stop being the, and does
When
there
they
need to
get-
be a,
When they have my replacement.
when there's a replacement?
I believe it's sometime mid-May.
So would the board's pleasure be to post this position?
Do you post it and then people like write a letter that they're interested and
Yep.
it goes through us? Is that how
Yep.
that happens?
Yep.
Oh, so we should probably do that then.
Yep.
Do I have a motion for that? Is that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to post the position.
All right, any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
So do you have a detailed job description, more concise about what you were just talking
Nope, there
about?
was never one. They were appointed and given,
There's no minimum requirements, like,
well, I believe there
Driver's
should be
license?
some, well, there are minimum requirements, but when I was given the job, nobody else wanted it, so it increased to that. Before that, we had an ex-fire chief, I think. Miles, was he a fire chief? Was he the fire chief? Yeah, he was, he ran a little house next to the firehouse that was driven through by a car and demolished.
Dad, do you think you could poke around and find a job description from MEMA?
We can find, I can put some job description there with minimum
Work
requirements.
with Heather and draw that up and then get it
I think the
posted?
people are going to be interested and have a lot of these criteria already established. They're all pretty much first responders criteria.
Do you have experience with this already, Chief?
I have some experience with it.
Yeah.
I think it's, in this day and age, we just know we're going to have more of these type of events that are going to happen. So that is career. I think that it needs a fair amount of time and energy put into it,
Right.
And it's a challenge because there's a lot that you really can do with it. It's as much as you kind of want to give it. I certainly hear what Ed's saying about department head and that I understand that, but I'm not adverse to I just some of the talks with like Don and stuff. I'm not adverse to seeing that go outside just because if someone's really willing to give it the kind of time that it really could use, that could be a benefit to the town. So I think it's a good idea to kind of open it up and see what you get for people with interest and let's see where it goes.
Is the highway super aware of this?
Yeah, I talked to him. He's swamped right now. Okay, that's my feeling.
Is there ever a time where there's like a
But
a group
my
of people
comment-
that act as one? Do you know what I mean?
My comment on that is if you do, say we get somebody that is not a department head, the department heads should be, I feel, should be assigned as deputies to assist in the operations, in the emergency, and be part of the solution to get things done.
That makes sense.
And you would have a list of that who would be,
Right.
I mean, the department heads could put a liaison in there, but, that's, I do think they should be involved, and I do think that when there's meetings involved, these department heads should know things are coming and what's to be expected, and to gear up for
The
it.
position is really, a facilitator.
Right.
So it's really someone's going to organize, get people together, organize, like David said, just, prior to, during, and after. And so, just put it together.
Is Chief Simonelli aware of this discussion as well? Has he
Yes.
been invited to any of this?
He is. We had this discussion on Friday morning around between 11 and 12 a.m. The fire chief was present, Randall was present, Jackie, the Lieutenant Ian?
Sergeant
Oh, Sergeant Ian
It was-
was present as well. We were discussing the citizen, what's the name of the program?
Yeah, the CCAP program, which.
And we branched at that point to MEMA and the emergency management position that was on the agenda for this evening. So he is aware of it.
Okay. Nice to have this report as well.
Any questions from me, from anybody who's interested in it, or has questions from the public? Don, you're well aware of it.
No question. Last chance. Any complaints about plowing? Last chance.
Posting this, could you describe to me what you're looking for in posting this? When you say post, what do you mean?
Well, he's
Facebook,
asked me
our
to put
website?
some criteria together.
And then where are we gonna put it, Ed?
I'll look at it this week and give it to you, and you can format it.
Okay, but are we just putting it on Facebook and on our website? We're just using
I would
free
post it here.
websites.
I think that
Free.
you post it here on the webpage. It's not a legal requirement. It's appointed and not paid position.
Just get the word out, I guess.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, we have everybody here. Open time for the public. Any questions? George? Okay. Thank you.
Billy, you running for this job?
I might be.
He's hiding back there. All right.
Nice to see you.
Hey, going back.
I haven't seen you since retirement.
Just got back from vacation, right?
Yeah. How about you? I heard you were away.
All right, moving on to the minutes of March 11th. I've read them. All right. Those do I have a motion to approve? That would be Ed or Jackie.
Let me just finish reading.
Scooby-Doo. Thanks, Don.
What's his last name? Slater. I don't know. Name's okay.
Should put badges on it. People come in.
Right, hi, my name is.
My name is.
It's a good thing. I think about that. Okay. I just keep seeing them and I,
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes for
March 11th.
March 11th, 2013,
14.
14.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
I abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. Minutes approved. Next on the agenda is, we did the payrolls. ECAC contract. In 2 sentences, Heather, where are we with that? They can be long sentences.
These two guys are sitting on the edge of their seat over there.
Are we okay? We're square?
Spoke with Kathy, had email from her insurance agent forwarded to everyone
Yeah, I saw
for a
it.
description of difference between producers and broadcasters' liability. Spoke with our insurance agent yesterday, Larry Joseph. He was on board with one of the trains of thought we had last week, which was coming up with just a policy to clarify that anyone who works for the town is an official who wants to utilize essentially the ECAT program and have some of the equipment, tape any of the programs that we actually use ECAT themselves to broadcast, to produce, to do the whole shindig. And if anyone wants to go outside of that, then they are doing so on their personal time and as a individual capacity, not as an official, so that they're taking the liability on themselves.
So this evening, do we have to take a vote to sign the contract?
We
now?
do. We have not done that yet.
Okay. It's been vetted by our attorneys, and it's been bounced around for the past month. So I think it's an appropriate time to ask for a motion to,
Make a motion to sign the ECAT contract
do I have a second?
Second.
Second, with the approved changes.
with the approved changes.
Approved changes. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Page 10
That's
of
good.
10?
Check that right off.
I have it right here. It's already got the signatures from ECAT.
Okay, John, that's good.
Oh, the guy with the micrographia. Can you read that?
No.
Nice.
I'm being nice. I said, oh. Go ladies. Yes, thank you. All right, ECAT, And then 77761A, request for taking property out of 61A. Heather, can you refresh us which piece of property this was?
Sure, this is the lots A, B, and C on the easterly side of Strong Road, Assessors Map 29, parcels 52 and 53.
It's
We
across
talked-
from the ball fields, right?
Okay,
The board voted on this last week to approve it. I just did not have the paperwork. I wasn't aware that there was a sheet of paper that the board traditionally signs when releasing these Chapter 61A properties.
so we already voted on, we don't have to vote
We
on it.
voted on it last week, we're all set. I just need 3 signatures from those who were present last week on this lovely sheet of paper, please.
Edward Batchelder has not been on the board since Ann Roy was elected.
Oh, was I creating names?
Yeah, you're trading names.
Well, Ed, you know, I didn't like
That's
your
all right.
last name, so I just changed it.
I'll pass it on.
Yikes.
Do we sign this one or that one?
The one that I
okay.
have there, because it has more
We'll
updates
sign
on
it,
it.
brother. Yeah, Ed couldn't get off the board because we didn't post the election appropriately, so he was like stuck even though he was on it, and then finally it was approved by the state.
Well, what I did was I actually found this on the hard drive somewhere, and then I tried to just amend the names, but apparently when I saw Ed, I was all excited and figured that one was correct.
Told
I
you
was
there's a lot
wrong.
of Eds in town. All
Had a
right,
chance to meet him?
No, I don't believe so. It's possible. I've met a lot of people.
now do you want to save executive session to the end?
Whatever you'd like to do,
I
Dave.
think that would be appropriate, because then we can just move through and go to executive session, and when we come out, we'll just be closing. Next up is possible forum related to the town articles with Mr. Floyd.
Mr. Chairman, we created an information session last year. We held it on Thursday, May 9th, about a week and a half before the annual town meeting. Opened it to the public, told everyone there was no voting of any kind, and we had 2 selectmen present, Jackie and Mike, to go over each article at a time for the public. Public present could ask questions. It gave information to the public that could be shared, and also it gave the authors of those articles something to think about that maybe they hadn't thought about to be better prepared at the annual town meeting.
When do you propose to do this?
May 8th, which is the same Thursday, different date. May 8th, Thursday here, 6:30. 6:30, we did last year at 6:30, seemed to work.
So could you pick that up on the mic over there? Can you hear what they're saying? All right.
Well, also we had Hank Barton speak about the master plan. He gave a presentation. So if there's any special presentations for any of the articles, they're certainly invited to be there.
Well, as I know, I don't think we've really generated any articles at this time, so. If there are, different departments that generate articles, we should just refer them to you to make arrangements to be at this.
Yeah, it's good to keep me in the loop, and
We'll have Heather do that for us, if that's
Yeah.
possible.
and then this way, whatever the articles are, they can be passed out, because they'll be.
Now, Robert, you go over the omnibus budgets too at the same time, don't you?
We do, I don't remember what we did last year, there wasn't that many questions on it. Yeah,
All right.
and not everybody's there, they answer the questions, and pretty much everybody knows that. But it's more of the other articles of, particular substance. And if we don't know or somebody's not there, then,
Okay. Well, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda is performance review of the accountant, Vicky Morrow. And just before that, I just want to touch on a few calendar things. We're having a budget meeting next week that starts at 6.
That's correct.
It's a joint meeting with the Select Board and Finance Committee regarding the budget for FY15. So it's at 6 p.m. here next Tuesday instead of 6:30.
Is that an appropriate time? So I'm speaking as mom of child in school, and lots of moms say, you know, we want to be involved, we want to hear what's going on, we want to know where, you know, where the money's going. Is this an appropriate time for those people who may be interested to come and listen, or is that not an appropriate time?
That would defer that to a mother of children.
Well, well, I mean, if moms have time to get here, then they have time to get here, but I'm just wondering if that's the
Isn't
time
there
for them to come and hear what's happening.
Is this the Finance Committee annual report of the proposed budget?
No, not Tuesday.
This is
This is just an update.
Right, I think it's a
sitting
lot.
down with the finance committee to make cuts on the budget.
Yeah, that's-
Right, and this is,
But
there-
on
you
the
have a
other
lot of
hand,
moms
too,
wondering about school budget and where, you know, as far as school is concerned, and so I want to be able to say, you know, this would be a good time for you to come if you have concerns
Well,
about
they're
school budget
open
or not.
meetings. You know, if they have concerns, they should be here, and it's a good time anytime,
Okay,
as far as I'm concerned.
okay,
But there is a, Finance Committee does have a all boards meeting, and when they do their presentation, and that's another time that it can be an input, because I'm assuming they're gonna have it.
So that's one time. And Liz, I don't have an answer. I mean, I don't know if you're talking like a Saturday or something.
no, no,
like
I'm
that.
just talking, I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, moms are talking like, where's the money for school go? Who's in charge of that? Where's the money that,
School committee.
like specifics?
Right, but if we're gonna cut the budget
They
for the
want-
school, they wanna
they wanna know-
where you're gonna cut it.
right.
We're gonna tell the school,
Thank you.
here, you need to cut so much money, and so they're gonna wanna know, well, why are we cutting the school, and why can't you cut this, or that kind of.
I don't know that anybody's going to show up, I just know there's a PTO meeting Thursday.
Well,
So someone might ask.
if you find that there's a more appropriate time, that I mean, it's a flexible thing. We can
Okay.
make it on another time.
Okay.
But moving ahead,
And was it this-
Last year.
Right, that's, you know what I'm getting at. Okay, thanks.
I mean, I think it's appropriate that they can.
Anytime.
Any of these meetings,
Okay.
and especially if it's a public forum, they should
Right.
be able to, you know, be recognized and put their comments in.
moving on, Select Board meets on the 22nd of April and the 29th. The annual town elections are May 5th. And Angel Park Memorial at Crossroads, when's the dedication?
May 4th, Sunday at 12 p.m.
May 4th. In addition to this, tentatively, there is in the works to put together a debate and meet the candidate night, working on moderator from out of town to oversee that, and that would be tentatively April 30th at 6 p.m. at Norris. If we can get everything pulled together, it's kind of a last-minute thing, but I think it would be important for people to come out and be able to talk to the candidates. And again, that's, did you were able to talk to Norris, Liz?
I didn't ask, they're in the middle of audit, so I will ask in the morning.
All right,
I don't
so,
foresee it being a problem. 'cause
yeah,
they're
I mean,
so-
if everything lines up and everything goes smoothly, the Council on Aging has been gracious enough to be the sponsors of this debate, meet the candidates night, April 30th at 6 p.m. at Norris School.
Have you reached out to all the candidates yet? or
Not yet, no, it's still being formulated together. I think there'll be a formal reaching out to the different candidates, but I just want to let people know about it. And I have made contact with somebody that's willing to moderate the event. From my understanding, he's the Greenfield High School debate coach. I did call the regional, and I guess they don't have a full-time debate team. They have a debate class, but they didn't have somebody who was like a debate coach, which I thought was bring somebody outside from the town. So anyways, that's the tentative time for that. All right, moving backwards to performance review of accountant Vicki Morrow.
So, I have one question, I don't know that I have everybody's information.
You should have everyone's, I emailed you everyone, Mike did not submit one that we
Okay,
know
so
of.
that's the one that is.
Yes.
Mike's.
Do you
Okay.
have Jackie's?
Yes, I handed it to
Yeah, I
you.
thought that was maybe.
Jackie's here?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, gotcha. I thought that was maybe Mike's, because I knew he wouldn't be here, so, okay.
All right, now, do we have copies of that? Because I don't have copies of everybody's.
Copies of.
You have it on your iPad. It's
thought you said
under
review.
performance reviews.
Here's 3 copies, 4 copies.
Okay. How you doing, Vicki?
I'm good, how are you?
All right. You have a chance to look at some of the reviews,
I did.
and do you have any questions?
I I guess I don't have any questions about what's contained in them.
Okay.
I guess I would ask you, going forward, what expectations, what is it that you would like to see continue? What would you like to see improve? There's always room for improvement, everywhere here, so.
On my comments, you saw that after the annual auditor's report, and I know this past year you and Don did a lot of those implication of those new changes. I'd like just to see them, done faster and department heads more involved of why they're being done, how they're going to be done, and get those changes done sooner than later.
Liz?
I just have one thing that I don't know if this is something that Vicki can help with or not is, so after being gone through this whole year on the board, and we get the bill warrants, and I like to look at them first. Is there any way that they come from your office to us, right? Is that how that goes? The bills?
Yeah.
To get them earlier? Is that a process that we can work on, that we can look at them before they get here? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, Joyce leaves usually around 1 unless there's problems or issues, and she'll finish them so that you can have them for tonight.
Yeah.
So they're done usually by 2 o'clock. We have, she's usually brought them into town administrator's office for them to present to you. So they're in that office.
There's
in the
not a way to
afternoon.
see them before they get paid though, right?
They don't get paid until Donna actually cuts the check.
Until after we sign it.
Correct.
That's a process that I would like to figure out how I can be more in tune to what's there. I've come up in the past and asked for bills to see,
Right.
and I wish I had seen them before I signed.
Before you sign.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's something that can be improved on or not. Just a concern that I have.
I guess that's a tough one. Anyone's welcome to come up and look at them while we're in the middle of processing them, but I don't know that I can actually physically give
Right.
them to you
Right. Yeah.
while we're trying to balance it.
Yeah. Something to think about, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
no.
all, something to think about.
But just on her note, they're usually available after 2 o'clock on a
Right,
Tuesday.
so I could just pop in and look
So,
then.
they can be reviewed, and you're looking to review everything. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and usually it's 1 o'clock or 1:15, whatever, she'll bring them downstairs.
but that's good to know the time.
Yeah,
So that
she usually.
when
leaves
I'm
it-
done, when I get here,
When you get here.
I could look
You
then.
could look at them, yeah, and if you had a question or a problem or
That's good.
something that you weren't sure, should we pay it, should we not pay it, you can come upstairs and, we can look at that and make adjustments.
Another thought that I had is, as the budget is produced and set up, and as department heads and committees go through their budgets, I know there's nothing in place right now other than the actual report, but is there anything that we can do as a tool, not as a stick, as a tool to help the departments realize that, they're running out of money, they need to have a plan, they need to address this, and is it something that your office can do to, at least have a one-on-one with department heads and talk about their finances before they become a major issue for the town?
Yeah, that can be done. I had last year partially went through the payroll and sent emails to the department heads that said, look, based on these calculations, this is what you're going to be over. I didn't necessarily do that with expenses. That's a little bit harder to project than salaries. But that is definitely well and good to say, hey, can you meet with me? I'm kind of concerned. You only have so much money left. It would probably be maybe even before this March timeframe.
Well, I think it would be good for the finance committee to position themselves, and also, like you, to position themselves, and also give the department heads warning that, hey, this is the money you have to live with, because if there's no other money to come in and augment that, we're going to have deficits that we might not be able to match.
You know how
And
we,
that's why I'm saying that if we had some kind of a tool, namely the accountant's office, to say, just review maybe once a month after 6 months goes by and say, hey, listen, highway department come in, you've got X amount of money, are you gonna be all right? If you're not, you need to talk to somebody.
But isn't that in the line items? Because you look at the line items, and every quarter, we used to get this all the time, you would see that after the first quarter, 25% spent, second quarter, 50. I mean, we don't see that anymore. We used to get those reports all the time, and then we could see in October, December, where somebody's cruising over like a payroll line, that is now, they're getting close to 80%, 90%, and it's only November. We know they're gonna go over.
But, you know,
We don't
but-
get
go
that.
out on the
if
15th
we
of every
should-
month,
We
right?
should have an action
The
plan.
15th and the
to deal with
30th, we
that.
get them.
Do you not
I haven't
get
been
them?
seeing them anymore.
They go out on the 15th and 30th, but
Well, we don't see them here anymore. I used to look at them here, I don't see them.
Okay, well, I mean, what has been done previously is Joyce will send those out. Sometimes they're not exactly the 15th and 30th, because we know that there is a bill warrant that's going to be posted, so we wait until the bill warrant's posted, if it's 1 or 2 days, or receipts for revenues to be posted, so that way you have a truer picture of what's in there, and it's been sent to the email selectmen, so I can send them individually to you if you'd like.
Well, we usually have them here. It'd be like in our packet, we just look at them. I would just be, it's something as we're talking about something, I'll be sort of listening and looking at the same time, just to see where we're trending, especially in years past when we would get, 8% or 7% budget cut halfway through the year from the state because everything was bad back in 2009. You had to sort of really be prepared. But we don't get that document to sort of see how things are going. And that brings up another discussion, and I think we talked about this, and I don't know if we ever got an action plan on it, was every year in February, certain departments ask for transfer of funds. Every year.
Correct.
And it's not transfer of funds because something broke. It wasn't transfer of funds because something flooded. It was always transfer of funds for basic budgetary items. And I really wanted to look at that for the past 5 years. Because if a department head is doing the same thing every single year, skirting around the budget process of what we go through every spring, to just ask for more money later, then we have to look at that person's budget and see if it's truly funded up to where it needs to be funded. Because that money should be used for emergencies, not for yearly expected budgetary expenses, which it
Correct.
is being used for now.
I did start that, I haven't finished it. I started
Okay.
doing it when we talked about it however many months ago, and other things came up and whatnot. I can definitely finish that. What I can tell you is that the Finance Committee has gotten a little more stricter and stringent on, this isn't an emergency expense. You went over your budget, you gotta figure out a way to pay for it. Because they won't make those transfers if it's for copy paper because you spent your budget.
Some of these were just for wages from.
Most of those, in what you're referencing, was for wages in particular, yes. To fund they went over their wage line. So, but as far as expenses go, the Finance Committee will definitely look at that and say, look, this isn't an extreme situation, it's not something that broke that you need the money for. We really shouldn't be transferring to pay for, like I said, copy paper, I'm just using that as an example. They don't tend to do that. They haven't in the past, year or so, for specific everyday items that people just overspent. If there was a reason they overspent because of an extreme situation, but that wasn't told, I shouldn't say extreme, but unexpected expense, right. And that wasn't told to them, and people are trying to pay regular bills, they don't know that, so they're gonna say, no, I'm not gonna pay these regular bills. So I've seen that happen in the past year or so.
But I'm concerned that as the budgetary process goes through, it's a lie. It's basically a lie. It's not factual information because
Yes.
it's not truly reflecting what they need for a year. It's what they need for 7/8 of a year or whatever. And so, that comes back to us. Are we not funding that department effectively?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that department not managed effectively? So, I mean, so it's a couple of things. So it's a bigger picture thing that I think we need to look at. Especially, there's never been any money in this town since 2004. Every year, there's no money. There's just no money. And so I think we really have to be very, aware of the things that sort of are happening to sort of not address issues by sort of putting it off for the following year to take a transfer.
Is it fair to say that when we get that report, Vicki, during the month, and the first 3 months, you would say you've expended 25?
You're talking the expense report?
Yeah, you've expended 25%, and by the middle of the fiscal year, you should have expended 50%. Is there a way for us to kind of monitor that with an email or a letter to the department that says, hey, you're halfway through the year and you're actually 75% over? Like, kind of, maybe they're not looking at it, maybe they're not really paying close attention. So if we had some sort of documentation out of your office that just brought it to their attention, maybe that would be helpful in eliminating.
Well, I think the
Getting to
biggest one
February.
is wages, because I think, there are certain things that get paid by fees. So all of a sudden, it's like 50% gets paid in the first quarter, and then the other 50% gets paid in the
And
fourth
I'm
quarter.
sure, and I'm sure that Vicki would know by looking at it, that's what this is, and it will catch itself up. But
Right, I
the
think
paper part of it, that kind of stuff,
I think
maybe.
it'd be easier just to start with wages, because that's where your biggest expenses and would have the most effect on the economy of the town.
But no, that's a good idea too, to say, look, that's something as a department head, that's ultimately in your job description and your responsibility, but
Right.
to send them a reminder is by all means a good, way to just
Monitor,
monitor it, yeah.
yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, on a different note, I from my opinion, I don't have any complaints about how the accountant office has been running. I think you've been doing a very good job upstairs. You've been here, what, 2.5 years now?
August
Yeah.
of 2012 is when I started,
Yeah, so,
so it's been a year and a half.
year and a half. It's been a good year and a half, right?
It's been a good year and a half. There's lots left to learn, but, I did learn a lot while I was here, so.
What I would like to talk about is the relationship with one department with the rest of the town and other departments, and how you take on how the accounting department or the accountant's department relates to, say, other departments in the town, and how those relationships are. And are they healthy relationships, do you think?
I think the majority of them are, yes.
So you think things are going relatively well in those areas?
I believe so.
Okay. Are there any areas that we could help make the relationship stronger, healthier?
I guess what I would ask is that, there are certain guidelines and certain deadlines and certain, I don't want to call them policies because they're more procedure and processing that we do in our office, that I would need to make sure that you guys are going to quote unquote back me up, so to speak. Like if I say that I need, all people's bills for year end at this date, I can't be having people sending me, we back a second. Like I'll send out a memo very shortly about year end dates and what I need to do to close the books. And I need people to take that seriously and not say, oh, well, I can just turn it in September anyway, because that means the longer it takes me to close the books, the longer it takes me to certify free cash, the longer it takes for the town to have extra money to do something with.
Do you think it would be beneficial if you sign that letter and you have us sign it too?
That would be helpful, yes. Because at certain points in time, I'm going to ask for bills that you are going to anticipate that you're going to need to pay in July. I don't expect people to going out on June 30th and spending all the rest of their budget because I'm not going to get the bills in time. That kind of thing. Last year, for instance, what you do at year end is any bills that are related to the year before, you accrue them so the expenses are in the correct month. I had a stack of bills I was accruing for year end that were from the previous August and September and November and in February and March and whatnot. And so that just takes a lot longer process to close the books. So people are taking it seriously in that, you know what, we really need to meet these deadlines, and I'm not doing it to be a pain, but if we want to close the books and get our free cash by the end of September or early October, then we need to make sure that nothing gets left behind.
Can Heather help? Can Heather help with that? And so if is there certain one or two that need help with addressing the urgency of that, can Heather be somebody that can help you with that, or?
She can, but I think if you as a board say, you know what, the accountant's office needs these particular things to be done in a timely manner, you know, whatever the deadlines are that are there, then that would help a lot, I believe.
The letter could come from you and us.
Yes.
I think that
yes,
would be
I think
helpful.
that would be helpful.
Can you generate a list of things that you expect at a certain time? That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I sent one out last year, you know, because if we're going to, for instance, do our, you know, year-end budget transfers closer to earlier than July 15th, then, you know, I need to make sure I have those bills before that certain time so I know whether your budget line is going to go over and we have money to transfer from one account to the other, that type of thing. Does that make sense to you guys?
And I apologize to anybody that might take this wrong, but I mean, I've been here for 30 years. I know that a lot of the terminology, but there's a lot of terminology out there a lot of new departments are not familiar with.
That's a
like,
good point.
And like encumbering funds,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have a definition with that. Bills that come in before the 31st is considered a bill for this year.
Correct.
Anything after the 31st is not this year's bill.
Correct.
And don't submit it. These are things.
Yeah.
And then if there's money in the budget, and you got some, say, $200 or $300 left, doesn't mean you spend it for the sake of spending it.
That and do it at the last minute, because
Right.
that, you're not gonna get a bill till the end of July or later or whatnot, and it kinda,
But encumbering means, and I know we've had these difficulties with department heads, they think that money's there, they can spend it out through the summer, but no, that means that you
No.
have
I
a
have
bill
to have a
coming
physical
that you
bill.
don't have a bill for yet, but you bought it before the 31st of June, or
Correct.
30th of June. And you anticipate it, so that money has to be incumbent on the books to pay for it.
right, I have to set it aside to say, okay, we know we spent this last year, it's not gonna fall into the free cash.
So I understand, if you can give some definitions
No,
out there,
that's a
some
good
of those
point.
titles would be helpful.
That's a good point.
Maybe you could have a meeting with some of the department heads with Heather,
Well,
set over some guidelines, and that would be something to do as well.
we talked about that at our last department head meeting, last week. And so then the next one, or we could have one sooner than that, and, you know, send a memo out, and then people can, at that department head meeting, say, I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean by this, you know, be able to elaborate. And I can bring examples of what those.
I think the
types of
fact that
things
you're
mean.
having the department head meetings as opposed to not having them last year, it will help substantially with the problem that you're saying, because there's the communication part that perhaps was missing before.
That, and I think too, the committees kind of get, you know, you get the historical committee or the park commission or something where they get bills and they just submit them like they normally would submit them, not realizing that, you know, it's an electric bill that was really for June and they get it in July, you know what I mean, those type of things. So even if you know.
And a lot of those bills are split months. It
Those,
starts
that was
in
just
June
an example,
and bills out in July.
Exactly, exactly.
Vicki, I think Jackie has a question.
Yes, I was, this of course is our job, but I was just wondering if you could, the Hampshire Council of Governments, as you know, have been involved in our electrical bills. And it came to my attention, actually it was a letter written to Ed about the Department of Utilities, how they had some changes. And so I started paying attention, and I should have before, my mistake, but I noticed the power rates were very high because they had a fixed rate, and things started to change and they got very expensive. So I'm aware of it. Heather and I have worked on it. We're looking at other contractors to help us with that. But could you please, in the future, if you see anything that seems really high, draw it to our attention. Although I know we should be looking at it, but it would be great if, you know, you maybe saw a spike in a bill that was unusual and just draw it to our attention.
Okay, that's easy enough, because I'll see it before you guys.
Right,
actually
right.
get it, so.
Right, so that, you know, because by now it was too late, and now we've gone back to Western Mass Electric. But if we had earlier caught it when it just began, we could have pulled away again. Because it only took 2 weeks to actually go back to Western Mass.
Okay,
Thank you.
easy enough.
Any other issues with interdepartment relations or anything like that?
I mean, I don't have any at this point in time. You know, we try to cooperate with people the best that we can. It doesn't always work that way, but, you know, we can only do what we can do and give people the information that they're requesting and trying to help them understand the information that we give them.
A lot of times they don't understand the information.
Would you,
With reasons.
would you want your sister to work here? I mean, is this
I
a,
want my sister to work here.
is this the kind of company that you would want?
No, because
relative-
she's bossy.
Okay.
My sister didn't, but she's a bossy, and that has fared well for her.
She
Well,
watches.
no, I'm just saying, would you want a relative to work here, or a friend? Would you say, oh yeah, work for our town of Southampton?
Well, I tried to get my friend who went on maternity leave to come here, but she liked her summers off because she was a teacher, so.
Okay, so you have faith in the town then?
I do, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Because it's partly why I took this job, and I like what I'm doing, and I like, being able to understand how it all works and know where my taxes or dollars are going, and being able to help people that live here get the best bang for the buck, so to speak, you know what I mean? And make sure things get accounted in the right places.
Now, you asked us if there's anything that you should be doing. Is there anything that you, as an accountant that's been here for a year and a half, see that we're not doing that we should probably think about doing or anything?
I guess, going back to talking about, whether it be our own internal deadlines with payroll or bills, or asking for certain documentation, we do that so we know where the money's going. And so then when the auditors get here, they have a warm and fuzzy of what's happened. Like for instance, they came to me with some bills in their they did their sample testing of bills that we've paid. And they'll be like, well, whose signature is this? Whose signature is this? And I'm like, I don't really know. It's one of the library trustees. So I can kind of make it out, but not really. So when we say to you, we really can't read the signature, it's not like we're trying to be a pain in the butt. It's because they ask us those questions.
Can you get a signature, do you want a signature page from each department? So you can match them? Everyone in the department signs something, so you...
No, because for the most part, we can figure it out.
Okay.
But it was something that happened, when I first got here. Because when I came in August, it was the beginning of 13. So at the beginning of 13, I really wasn't into the whole FY13 piece yet, So those types of things I'm learning as I go along. But I think once we get updated members of each committee, because we're going to have elections,
Right.
if your office puts together a list of all the members and who they are, then you can kind of decipher for the most part. But that's just an example of, certain things that the auditors bring up.
What do you have, 12 trustees at the library?
Yeah, that was just an example,
Is your wife?
The zoning board signed off on payroll, and it's just this big scribble. Like, I wouldn't know who that was, but Joyce did, but it's just a scribble.
Yeah.
So the auditors would say, well, who signed this? And so they're looking for that authenticity of that somebody actually, a real person actually physically approved,
Right,
whether
sometimes,
it be a bill or a payroll or
but
something.
sometimes when I'll sign something that...
I realize that.
I'll put a slash and I'll write my name on it. So,
Yeah.
because especially in the hospital, if I'm only in the hospital for one or two things, and the nurses might not recognize my signature, we used to have stamps, we'd stamp our name.
It's just an example of something, I guess, that, starting this new audit for this FY13, those are the types of things that they look for, and it makes it a lot easier if everything that they're looking for is all together in one place.
All right, one last question for you. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, I thought you said you had one last.
No, one question from you. Do you have any other questions for us?
I don't at this time. I guess I just want to be able to, if I need something, call you, get your support. I may come in here from time to time and give you information updates. Like, I'll give you an example of when I was getting free cash certified, and I thought there was going to be a lot less. For as much as, thank God it was incorrect based on a calculation I had in my spreadsheet, but because we ended up with more, I had to be able to come to you and tell you that information. So I'm going to continue to do that, and I want you to be able to, tell Heather or call me and say, hey, can you come and present certain numbers to us for certain ideas or certain things? I want to be able to continue that relationship.
Yeah, but as long as you're doing it in a timely manner. In other words, she needs notice to put it on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I realize that, yeah. But, it won't be anything that would be a surprise. For instance, if it had to do with, for instance, free cash or the tax rate or the Schedule A or some other type of issue that, has come up, so.
We've been meeting our timeframes, for Schedule A and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, the DOR is just going over Schedule A this past month. It was submitted in the end of November. And tax rates were done for the past 2 years on time. And, I've been trying to get the auditors the information that they need on time and whatnot. But if you don't feel that something's not done in a timely manner, then you have to come and tell me, hey, maybe we could do better in getting this in a little sooner or whatnot, whatever it might be.
Very good. Well, thank you, Vicki.
Wait,
I
I'm not
appreciate
done.
it.
I have something else to say. So this is the first time we used this form as a way.
I was going to ask Art this, but go ahead.
Well, actually, I just wanted to talk about number 11, which is the last one, an individual goal, because if we're going to review somebody, I think everybody should have a goal going forward into the next year, and I think it's our responsibility as the Board of Selectmen to make sure that we have a goal and that we follow through with it. And so I actually called Vicki this morning because I thought that was the one part of this that maybe needed to be a conversation instead of, I could come up with a goal for whoever I'm reviewing, and there could be 5 different goals, but I think it needs to be an effort together. And so Vicki had talked about obtaining, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, on the name of it, the municipal accounting certificate.
Yeah, it's
Is that what it's called?
accounting certificate.
So I just thought that was a good goal worth noting and something that she was going to try and achieve going forward within the next year. And we should check in regular to see, right, to see where she's at and how we can help you to get that or whatever we need to do to move it along. I thought it was a good measurable goal.
Yeah, it basically in March, they have the Mass Municipal Auditors and Accountants Association yearly school, and at that school, you go through a bunch of classes, to give you updates, and you can ask questions, and they go through, there's level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the last level, you take the test at the end, and basically what you're doing is handwriting journal entries of where all the, if someone were to, if they give you an example of, you want to record real estate taxes, you have to write down all the accounts that you do. Most, I would say probably all the municipalities have an accounting software program that does half that entry for you. So I only need to do half, but for the test, you need to know the whole thing. So it's a case of me really sitting down, and if I'm going to do an entry, make sure I do it all out by hand so I know exactly where it goes. And it just takes time to do that. I think, I think maybe in another year, there's a few classes you can take, and that's all they do, like for 6 weeks, once a week, that's all you do, sit there and do those types of journal entries. So, but that was good.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal.
I thought about, I definitely want to do that, so.
Okay.
Well, the question I was going to ask is, with Art sitting there, how did you think about the process we went through tonight? This is the first time we used this format.
I thought it was quite good.
Is there anything we could have done better?
I don't think so. I'm just hoping that all department heads will go through the same process. That's the goal.
Is it advisable to open it up to the public for questions or comments?
I think it's difficult, very difficult to do this in open meeting. Heather tells me the ethics committee or the ethics commission says that's the way you got to do it. I think that the department heads report to you. So you give the evaluation. I don't think the public should give an evaluation. Again, you were their employer, so that's the way I would look at it.
Would it be advisable to query written questions or comments?
I think that's always a good thing. I'm just afraid it can get out of hand pretty
I hear you
quick.
as well.
You know, that's the only thing. Nothing against the public, because I have to be part of the public, but you're the ones that are evaluating, and that person reports to you, and you can hire and fire. You've got that capability. The public doesn't.
Thanks, Ed. Anything, last comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we have to schedule a time to sit down and do contract negotiations at some point. And I think I'm going to leave that up to Heather to squeeze that into our timeframe coming up.
We'll talk.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on. I think we've done everything we're going to do in open meeting.
Town administrator's report.
Ah, crap.
You and Mike always skip me.
Go
It's a
ahead.
short report this week. I've been very swamped.
Yes, Heather.
All right, so just a couple things. Earlier today, Norris School roof was a topic of discussion. Ed, myself, Randall, and the janitors that are over at Norris had the opportunity to hang out at Norris School for a little bit and talk about the roofing. Apparently, a gentleman from Greenwood visited earlier, and after our meeting, we came to the determination that it would be an opportune moment to have the superintendent schedule a meeting with the Reinhardt, who is the architect, and Tishman, who is the
Project manager.
and Ed, myself, Craig, the janitors, and Randall, and sit down and have a discussion about what's actually happening with the roof, where it's going, why there's still problems with it, and figure out what's going to happen going forward.
Is this the old problem?
No, it's new problems.
This isn't the same change order?
No, we don't have a change order. There is a
There's
change
an
order, an
$8,000
outstanding change order
yes.
they couldn't do because winter set in,
Right.
which is part of the problem. But
Okay.
there are some other problems with drainage, drains on top of the roof that we've had issues with. And it's all part of construction. They're for the most part new things. They need to be they identified. The roofer is basically saying, those are not ours. We weren't told to do these, and they weren't on the plans, but now we're going to sort them out.
So then, I guess I'm thinking in terms of cost in dollars. Would those require another change order?
Well, we have to identify, if they're a problem of the original contract, and they're part of the original contracts and current change orders, there is no additional money as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
If there are problems that the roof has not efficiently addressed the drainage off the roof, and they weren't on the plans, we might have some change orders.
Okay.
Okay?
We're just thinking about borrowing the money.
Oh, we're not talking big money. I think you've already
No,
borrowed
still-
more than enough.
Well, but yeah, but,
You have to refinance that, don't you?
yeah, so, and I'm working with Mark from Tishman on the reimbursement. so-
Yeah, well, we're also talking about not releasing the retainage until these are
Yeah,
resolved.
There's about $78,000 that we still owe them.
78?
8,000, and that includes the $8,000.
Well, we have retainage on the architect, the engineer, the architect, the project manager, and the
Yeah, there's $2,800 left for Reinhardt, that's for a closeout, and then Greenwood, there's about $78,000 that we still owe them.
Mhm. That's about right. That's a 5%
Yeah.
retainage, yeah.
Yeah.
Follow-up from last week, Route 10 DOT sidewalk project. German Naito, who's the head of this project down at DOT, gave me a call earlier this week. He's back in town. We have set up a public meeting on May 29th at 7 p.m. over at Norris School in the cafeteria.
What time?
7 p.m., which I was told by the secretary, it's actually, she called it the cafetorium. So I was a little confused.
That's where we have our meetings.
Huh. But I'm used to a cafeteria. I've never heard of the cafetorium, so
Well, it's where they play basketball and eat cheese sandwiches, right?
sounds exciting. We just wanted to provide,
They have the stage there.
we wanted to provide enough space so that folks could come and we could accommodate more people than this room holds, should we actually get a crowd.
May 29th at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yes. I will put it on Facebook, the website, etc. They have to advertise it. They have to send
that a
information to
Thursday?
everyone.
Thursday.
This is, it's a Thursday. All right, staffing. We had a staff meeting last week on Thursday morning. And one of the things that came up, as Vicki had already stated, was I always ask for the input of the other department heads if there's anything that is going on in the department that they want to make folks aware of. So one thing that came up was we talked about the audit, the current status of the audit, and we also discussed what was going to be needed from everyone as we got to year end. So Vicki had mentioned to everyone and reminded folks that she was going to send out a memo shortly with regards to the bills. After that meeting, we had our first public safety meeting. We will continue to have these monthly after our regular meeting. And at that point, we talked a little bit about the emergency management plan. That's where our topic of discussion went for this week's meeting. All right, other things, other staffing issues, some jobs that are out there. The building commissioner position, I have been working with Richard and actually scripting this position as I was given leeway to do last week. It will be going before the PQB, I'll never get that right. The Triple PB board tomorrow for approval. Once we get approval from that, there's a couple different sites that are affiliated with building commissioners that we're going to put it on as well as advertising in the newspaper, whatever we need to do to comply with all the regs. Essentially, we're looking for someone who already has a lot of the qualifications and the training so that they're ready to go. The problem, again, with this position is they also have to be approved by Boston. Other positions that are out there, we have the Board of Health / the building and commissioner's clerical assistant. So that position will also be before the Triple PB board tomorrow.
Just a point of clarification, is he a building inspector or a commissioner?
Commissioner.
He is the building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer.
When did he become commissioner?
The state changed the terminology.
It's required by the state mass general laws for him to be the building commissioner.
There used to be a commissioner in Holyoke who oversaw what he did here as an inspector at some point.
You have to have a commissioner, and you can have inspectors underneath them.
What they found when they had the regional building commissioner was that the person actually essentially ran out of energy going from one end to the county to the next end of the county and was never on site when they needed to be if they had emergency calls. So I've been told. And then as far as the administrative assistant position, it is going for the Triple PB board tomorrow for the essentially just accepting the vacancy position at the time being. I'm still working on the job description. So I will continue to work on that this week. Some other things, let's see. I also at the last meeting, I updated everyone on the Triple PB's personnel review form that we used this evening and let them know that that was the wish of the board last week that we start implementing use of such forms. Updated everyone on the update on the security codes. All of the security codes have now been updated throughout the entire building over here. Haven't touched the COA. Apparently there were many that hadn't been used in a while, and instead of using our numbers sequentially all the way up, we had lost track at some point of our list. So we had just randomly guessed a number and plugged in people. So that is now all up to date. Let's see, other things. We talked about the joint budget, finance, and Board of Selectmen meeting next week. In May, I met with the public, let's see, what's his name? Charlie Kanicki from the Public Safety Complex. Thank you. And he asked if we could do a joint meeting with his committee and finance and this board in May 6th, actually, just to talk about where they are with, where they're going forward with money, what they're going to need for the next steps, what have you. They did their perk tests this week, 2 tests, they both passed. Everything was good. I believe it said something, now Ed, you're going to have to correct me on this one. I think it was something like, it took 10 minutes for the... 10 minutes.
flows.
10 minutes for what?
Flows.
10-minute flows, yes. I don't speak that language.
It drains out in 10 minutes.
But apparently it was a good result, is what I was told. So they were very happy. And as far as Maple, is Is this Maple Road or Maple Street?
Maple
underneath?
Street.
Maple Street goes underneath us. As we had previously found out, the town had voted at annual town meeting or a special town meeting, one or the other, back in approximately 47, to discontinue the road. The problem was the town didn't have the authority to do so. It's not a town road, it's a county road. So there was a hearing to discontinue the road officially. After a viewing of the road, at the beginning of May, I will get you the dates on this one.
Is this HCOG is going to be?
This is HCOG, yes. So unfortunately, it does cost us a little bit of money on this one because we have to furnish the
Donuts?
the what?
Did you say donuts?
No, furnish the
Layout.
Mylars for this. But it's coming out of the Public Safety Complex Committee
Mylars
fund.
should be in their files.
That's a good point. I will look into that.
They are in their files.
Check file.
All county roads are in HCOG's possession. We
Okay.
might have copies here, but I don't have Mylars here. I
Okay.
didn't have Mylars.
I will see what we can find out. And otherwise, that's all I have on my report.
Thank you very much, Heather. So now, last chance for open time for the public. All right, I guess we're going to go into executive session.
Mass General Law, section 30A, Section 21, Number 1, which is, what happened to the,
Might be an extra.
I need the,
Mike had it.
for now. I think it's supposed to read.
Hold on,
If I
they're
go in
reading.
the drawers, it looks like, it used to be a laminated piece of paper.
Yeah, that's
Yes, it was. Here we go. Mass General Laws to,
This is from 1988.
Chapter 38, Section 21, Number 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health of, rather than professional competence of an individual, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Roll call vote, please.
Moulton, aye.
Here's I.
McDougal, aye.
Polly, aye.